I had a pastor who used to tell us, you can be negative or you can be a Christian, but you certainly can't be both. I think there's a lot of truth in that statement, that if you're a Christian, there is so much that Jesus has given us. There are so many incredible blessings. There's so many victories. There's so much that he has done to overcome the world that we don't have a reason to be negative. We don't have a reason to be discouraged. We don't have a reason at all because of who Jesus is and what he's done in our life. And I think the same is true for that word, discouragement. You can be discouraged or you can be a Christian, but you certainly can't be both. Now, discouragement happens, and it can come upon any of us, and it can happen in a moment. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being discouraged in a moment, but I think there's a huge problem with being discouraged over a long period of time. And this is a lifestyle that many of us have chosen, just to be discouraged, to look around at the world and fret and worry and be anxious, to look around at the world and get mad and have bitterness just rule in our heart. And most sadly is when Christians look around at the world and lose hope and feel like nothing ever could be good again, nothing ever could be right again. And this is exactly what was going on in the Valley of Elah for 40 days as an army stood on one side of the valley, and an army stood on the other, and a giant mocked the people of God. And for 40 days, these men of Israel would get up, they would put on their armor, they would walk out of their tents, they would stand in line like warriors, and they would face the other army, and a Philistine giant would mock them, and they would turn around in fear and discouragement and even say things like, we have no hope, we have no chance. Who could possibly fight this, and who could possibly win this battle? And they just lived and wallowed in discouragement. And I didn't want to use the word warriors because, let's be frank, these men weren't warriors. Warriors go to war. Warriors fight battles. These were just men going through the motions, trying to look like warriors. They were doing the same thing over and over every day. Get up, put your armor on, stand in front of the army, hear a mocking taunt, and then run away discouraged. These were not warriors. They were men pretending to be warriors. They were men going through the motions, and day after day just going through the motions brought them to a place of discouragement. And the Bible tells us that they all lost hope. And maybe that's something you can relate to, just going through the motions, going to church one more time, reading the Bible one more time, doing my daily routine one more time, and you get in this motion, this rut, this routine, and you start to look like a Jesus follower, but maybe you're not really following Jesus. And this can happen. It's something that can happen to all of us. And it's certainly a cause of discouragement when you're just going through the motions, when you're not really fighting wars, when you're not really being a warrior, when you're not really following Jesus. You're just saying you are, looking like somebody who is. So you have to take an honest look at your life and say, am I really following Jesus? Because if you are, you really don't have an excuse to live and wallow in discouragement and loss of hope, because Jesus, he is the opposite of both of those things. I want to leave you with two thoughts. I want to leave you with the words from Corrie ten Boom, who was a Holocaust survivor. She was in a Nazi death camp and somehow managed to live, and not just live, and not just go through the motions, but live a vibrant, exciting, purposeful, joy-filled life. And here's the reason why. She summed it up with a couple of statements. She said, if you look at the world, you will be distressed. If you look within, you will be depressed. But if you look at Christ, you will find rest. So it's all about, where are you looking? Are you looking at the world? Well, of course you're going to be discouraged. If you're looking for inside yourself for the answers, well, of course it's going to be depressing. But if you're looking at Christ, you can just take a deep breath, and somebody like Corrie ten Boom can take that and just live through the most unimaginable horror and pain a person can live through. Why? Because she chose not to be ruled by discouragement. Here's a promise from God that we should all bank on today. It's Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 8. The Bible tells us, the Lord himself goes out before you, and he will be with you. So wherever you're going today, the Lord is already there. And when you get there, he's going to be with you. He will never leave you and He will never forsake you. So do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. The presence of the Lord is enough to make us live in hope, to live a discouragement-free life. So if you find yourself stuck in discouragement today, maybe memorize that verse, Deuteronomy 31:8. The Lord is going before you and He is with you. He will never forsake you. And that's enough for us to have hope in every situation. So do not be discouraged. Bye.